Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by the Director of Media and Fighter Relations for Prestige Fight Club MMA, Scott Zerr. Scott, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. Thanks for doing it. Scott, Prestige Fight Club MMA has their first event coming up on October 24th, but before we start talking about that show, let's talk about your old gig with Maximum Fighting Championship. What's the deal with MFC? Is MFC still around? Obviously, Mark Pavlich, he's doing some things right now. He's got the Mark Consulting that's going very well. So I'm just curious, is MFC still around? Because obviously you still have the same Twitter handle. You have Scott Max Fight. So what's the deal? What's going on with MFC? Is MFC still around? Is it still in business?
There's nothing official. I guess what we've termed 2015 to be is that Maximum Fighting Championship is on hiatus. I speak to Mark Pavlich pretty much at least once a week, if not more, and he is certainly looking at doing something again and bringing it back in 2016. It will be just a point of business operations, I think. But, there's certainly a chance that it will come back, and he's obviously given me the opportunity to, join Prestige, and I'm happy to do so, and certainly would like to do both in the future.
What exactly happened with MFC? Did Mark Pavlich, did he just lose his passion for MMA? Obviously, he's off doing great work with the Mark Consulting. What exactly happened?
You know what, Mike? It's probably a combination of a few different things. I certainly know that Mark and his entire team are very busy with the consulting firm. It's doing exceptionally well, so that's obviously taking up a great deal of his time. I think on another front, it is a wear and tear on everybody who's involved in a show. I don't think the vast majority of fans nor MMA media per se really understand just exactly how much goes into a show. Not just booking things like flights and all that, but you're dealing constantly with medicals and licensing and arena issues and television issues and all of that stuff. Every time you want to tackle one issue, another one or two come up, so it just adds more to the pile and more to your day. And over the course of 13, 14 years, it can definitely take a toll on everybody. And I also think that the business side of MMA changed quite substantially in the last 3 to 5 years, where there just isn't the money necessarily in MMA anymore. I think a lot of sponsorship has gone away, not just say at the UFC level with what they've done, but on regional and local levels. I don't think it's there as much as it used to be, and all of that, all of those 4, 5, 6 issues combined have basically left Mark, I think, with the idea that it was time to take a break for a year and see what the demand is for the MFC to come back. That has been substantial, and I think that will be the tipping point for Mark to decide. The fans want it, the fighters want it. Now it's just a matter of his desire and it makes good business sense to come back.
Mm-hmm. At what point this year did Mark Pavlich give you the green light to go seek other opportunities, whether it was in the sport of MMA or outside the sport? When exactly did he say it was okay for you to go seek other opportunities?
I would say probably around maybe around February or March of 2015. We had some very, very cordial, very friendly. I don't think everybody realizes how close Mark and I are. Besides, say, working, I work for him with the MFC. There's a lot of very personal relationship there as well. So, I just had expressed to him that, if he was going to take a long break, that I still had some desire to work, for a show, and he said, absolutely, no problem. And then I was able to, I talked to a few different shows. The vibe was there, but not to the extent that I maybe was all that comfortable with. But, I had a chance to talk to Cord and the guys at Prestige FC, and the vibe was a lot better. the opportunity for me presented itself, and I went back to Mark, and he just had said basically what he had said previously. If you want to do it, go ahead and do it. And if the MFC is back, we'd love you to do both. So that's the relationship I have with both shows. Is that if there comes time to do both shows, I'm free to do so, which I appreciate immensely. And like I say, I would definitely like that opportunity to do both shows.
When and how did this opportunity with PFC pop up, and who approached who? Did you go to them, or did they come to you?
Well, it's actually an organization that's been around for quite some time, primarily doing amateur MMA events in Saskatchewan. And then amateur MMA kind of got put on the back burner as the desire and the development of a professional government-run commission was coming along. And, basically there was no MMA in Saskatchewan for several months, if not maybe even close to a couple of years, amateur or pro. So when the UFC, a very similar situation to what happened in Ontario, the UFC said, we're coming, so you better get a commission put in place. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty much what happened in Saskatchewan. And then, Prestige FC was the second overall promotion and the very first Saskatchewan-based and Canadian-based promotion to get licensed and sanctioned to put on shows in the province of Saskatchewan. And shortly after that point happened, I reached out to Cord and I expressed an interest to see, if there was an opportunity to work together. And after probably about a couple of weeks, we decided it was a good fit, and we've just been off and rolling from that point. And it's been, a lot of fun, a lot of, good conversations, a lot of, trial and error. It's very different, I think, going from an organization like the MFC that had done 47 or 48 shows, now to Prestige, which is doing its inaugural show on October 24th. So I kind of had to restructure the way I did some thinking, but all in all, it's been a great process, and I'm immensely excited about what's to come next week.
Even though you're working for a different organization, you still have the same title that you did when you were working for MFC. So I'm just curious, how is your role with Prestige different from your role with MFC, and how is it similar to your role with MFC?
I think because the MFC was or is, if you will, at that particular level, I think my role with the MFC was much more media-based. We had probably, an average of 80 to 90 interviews for each MFC show, ranging from print, television, radio, internet, so, it was quite substantial. In fact, I will stand by any point that we've made over the years of saying that the MFC got, as many interviews for its shows right along. I think the only other show that topped it would be a UFC event. I think we easily eclipsed a lot of the other so-called big-name shows when it came to media exposure. And then, of course, with live television, that my role was just extended in that sense with the MFC. I think with Prestige FC, while I've been able to through with Cord and with all the fighters, it's been great to work with them on setting up, a good number of interviews. I think my role has also stretched a little bit more in the direction of operations when it comes to Prestige FC in terms of medicals and licensing and, ticket sales and things like that. So, which is great. I like doing both roles, and it's just a nice bit of a bit of balance with both when it comes to Prestige FC.
Mm-hmm. Now, your show coming up on October 24th, PFC 1, very interesting card. The main event fell out. Ryan Mahan, he was supposed to fight Mike Biggie Rhodes. Before we talk about the matchup, the new matchup that is in place now, how do you say Mike Rhodes' opponent's name?
I knew you were going to go in that direction. You know what? It's tough. It's Samoan, and I'm going to try it. I know I got the phonetics of it the other day, and I still haven't mastered it, but I believe it is Ulu-Lakepa. So I apologize, of course, to Taki and his team if I've butchered that a little bit, but I know once I meet him in person, I'm just going to keep calling him Taki anyways. So, but excited to have him aboard. He's a tough veteran. he's going to come to fight. He fights from a good camp, and I know that Mike Rhodes is not taking him lightly, even though the opponent has changed. So, I think we're still pretty darn happy with that main event. And what's happened with a lot of these injuries, also goes into your point we were talking about a few minutes ago with the frustration level of dealing with MMA events and how much time it takes that people don't really realize is finding injury opponents. It is not an easy task, particularly in this day and age where I found that there are more and more fighters, MMA fighters, who are doing what old school boxing has always done, and that is handpick their opponents, and if they seem to be on the verge of something big, whether that be getting a new level of contract for say a AA or AAA level show, or potentially they feel that they're on the verge of getting a shot in the UFC, they will not take fights unless they're gimme wins. And if they're not a gimme win, they are not going to take a fight because it could potentially ruin their quote-unquote opportunities to come.
This is a very big fight for Mike Rhodes because he's kind of become the poster boy for the old saying in this sport that goes, you're only as good as your last fight. Because when he came onto the scene and he fought against Brandon Thatch in RFA, people saw that fight and it was a completely one-sided fight. He ended up getting choked out in the first round. It was just a one-sided fight. Brandon Thatch took the fight easily. Mike Rhodes, a lot of people were saying, who is this guy? Why is this guy fighting? He's no good. Then after that, he knocked out Benjamin Smith and then followed that up with a victory over Alan Jouban to claim the RFA welterweight championship, and then he got signed by the UFC. So a lot of people were like, oh, he's great, he's a blue-chip prospect, he's a guy who's an exciting fighter, he's fun to watch, he's someone who we can see developing into a contender in the welterweight division in the UFC. This guy, he's great, you gotta see him fight. Then he goes to the UFC, he loses 3 fights, he goes 0-3 in the UFC, and then people turn on him and they go back to, oh, well, this guy sucks. Then he goes back to the regional circuit and he wins his last fight. Now he's great again. So now he's fighting in your main event on October 24th. What are you expecting to see from Mike Rhodes? Because sometimes he looks great, sometimes he doesn't look that great. He's got a little bit of a consistency problem. What are you expecting from Rhodes in the main event?
Well, I think Mike has a point to prove, and I think you pretty neatly summed it up right there. He needs to prove to people that he is a top-drawer prospect, that he is a guy that, given a second shot in the UFC, could do some damage. I really like his attitude. He's an exceptionally easy guy to work with, is a great promoter for himself and the event that he's fighting in. So, that's always a very high positive for shows outside of, say, the UFC. I think Mike, he's such a determined guy. He's come up from, a hard upbringing. He's had some rocky roads to navigate during his time. And I think it's just, going to be matters of opportunity now. So if he can win on October 24th, maybe pick up another win, within the end of 2015 or early 2016, put himself on a 3-4 fight winning streak, get himself to, a 10-4, 11-4 record, he's going to get another bigger, substantial opportunity. And I think that's all that, he's really shooting for. He just wants another opportunity to show people that he deserves to be recognized as a fighter that, basically he wants to be a fighter that's worth watching. And I think that mission starts next week in Prestige FC.
Now, the co-main event is probably the fight I'm looking most forward to because it's a very intriguing matchup between Kurt Southern and Daniel Swain. This is really the people's main event. A lot of people are very excited about this fight. Kurt Southern, he is coming off back-to-back losses to Tom Galicchio, and he hasn't fought in a year. It's been over a year since Kurt Southern has fought. He's dropping down to 145 pounds. This is his first fight. He's changed up his training. He's now training with Dwayne Ludwig, and then he's taking on Daniel Swain. And Swain is another guy who you're being reunited with. Southern fought in MFC and Daniel Swain fought in MFC. And Daniel Swain, he's the guy who he hasn't beaten a guy that's on the same level as Kurt Southern. Usually the guys that he's been beating as of late have been maybe a step or two behind Kurt Southern. So really both guys can't afford to lose this fight, because if Kurt Southern loses this fight, he moved down a weight class, he changed up his training, and it still doesn't happen for him. That's gotta affect him mentally somehow, that he's made all these adjustments hoping that that'll put him back on the winning track to what he was doing before those Galicio losses. And if he doesn't win this fight on October 24th, that's gotta really make him rethink some things, and we'll see what happens to him after that. And then you have Daniel Swain, who's got to get over that hump of not being able to beat guys who are on Kurt Southern's level. So it's a very intriguing matchup. What are you expecting from these two guys on October 24th?
Well, I love that you called it the people's main event, because I really believe that since Daniel Swain came on board as an injury replacement, the fight has totally taken off in such a popular direction. People are really excited about this fight, and I love the way you've looked at it too, in terms of it's must win really for both guys if they want to prove themselves. Kurt needs a win. He's been off for a year. He's become a gym owner. He's taken a new direction in his training under Dwayne Ludwig. But he ran into a brick wall in Tom Galecchio after he'd beaten up some other guys previously in very big key wins for him. But he ran into that roadblock. And now he needs to restructure himself. Daniel Swain is like you said, he needs to prove that he can beat that, sort of upper echelon type of guy. It's one thing to beat up everybody in your Pacific Northwest neighborhood kind of thing. It's another level to fight a guy like Kurt Southern, who has fought the very best guys in Canada. He's been in there twice with Tom Galecchio, MFC champion, now on The Ultimate Fighter. So those guys have a lot to prove, and I agree totally. It's a people's main event with a must-win tag for both guys, which is what you want on your upper end of a fight card for a brand new show like Prestige FC. It can't just be about old veterans that are trying to make their way back, and it can't just be about prospects. You need something at the very top end that is an eye catcher to media and fans, and we feel we've really fell into a fortunate situation with Swain versus Southern, because it fits all of the holes that we wanted to fill just really, really well.
The next fight I want to ask you about is a women's fight between Charmaine Tweet and Anna Barone. This is the trilogy fight between the two. Anna Barone won the first fight by knockout, and Charmaine Tweet won the second fight by submission. So both fighters, they don't like each other. It's obvious. It's a very interesting matchup for me, because there's a lot of mystery going into this fight, because you have Anna Barone, who hasn't fought in a very long time, and the last time she fought, it was against Charmaine Tweet. Then you have Charmaine Tweet, who she believes the first fight against Anna Barone was a fluke, and so now she's got to come back and win the second fight against her so that she can win the war. She lost the battle, but if she beats Barone, that'll make it 2-1, so she's won the war. So it's a very interesting matchup. A lot of mystery going into this one. What are you expecting from those two women come October 24th?
Well, the one thing that is really intriguing to me with this fight is the fact that both women do not like each other. There's a lot of bad blood there. A lot of it has to do with their past history in the two fights. Charmaine Tweet got knocked out. She's always called it a flash and a fluky knockout. Anna Barone sticks by the fact that, she came in and handed Tweet a quick knockout, statement loss. The rematch, went very quickly for Charmaine's favor with the submission. Anna Barone has missed weight and apparently frequently misses weight. So that's always been a bothersome fact to Charmaine Tweet, that, she doesn't feel obviously that that's professional to miss weight. So there's a lot of animosity which is going into this fight, which has made it really intriguing. And I think it's going to go a long way to showcasing this fight. I think when you look maybe just flat out look at the records of the two female fighters, they're not outstanding, but you have to factor in now that there's this personal animosity built up between the two of them, and that's just made it so much more interesting and intriguing for everybody who's going to be taking it in. And of course, Charmaine wants to pick up a convincing win here to stay in the top 10 in the world and stay relevant and stay, potentially get herself a big profile fight against a fellow top 10 fighter in Invicta, and that's where she's going to be headed back to Invicta after this fight in Prestige FC. And I know that if she can come in and do damage and take care of business against Anna Barone very quickly, that she is going to get a high-profile fight in Invicta. So there's a lot at stake for Charmaine, and of course Anna, is a proud person, and she wants to prove herself and prove that wasn't a flash, fluky knockout win, and that she can do that kind of damage again to Charmaine.
What are the chances this fight gets out of the first round? The first two didn't.
Less than 10%, I would say, which is great. I mean, hey, if a fight goes 3 rounds and it's compelling, and it's got action, no problem. What people do not want to see is 3 rounds of, heavyweights either leaning up against each other on the fence or humping each other on the mat. They don't want to see pity-pat little guys, the bantamweights, the featherweights. I hate that expression when people say, there's just nonstop action in these flyweight and bantamweight fights. Yeah, if you look at it closely, it's 15 minutes of guys running around and not accomplishing very much. So I think that's the key with any fight is whether it goes, a minute and a half or it goes 15 minutes. If there's action in it, I'll take it any day of the week. But the second the action, starts to lull and, I want to get through this fight and I'm going to grind one out, that's where fighters do themselves a disservice. The fans don't like it, and it's an easy way for fighters to get bounced from a promotion. I went through that for years with the Maximum Fighting Championship. A guy may have a big name, but if he comes and just wants to, kind of grind one out on the ground or just, kind of jab his way through 15 minutes, is a guy that's going to get his ticket to free agency very quickly.
Outside of the fights we just talked about, what fight on this card are you looking forward to the most?
Well, you know what? I would have to say there's 2 fights that they're basically go hand in hand. There's 2 young guys from TriStar from Montreal coming out. Obviously guys from TriStar have a lot of hype. Both of them have had a difficult time finding opponents, primarily because of where they train, how they train, and that nobody wants to fight with these 2 guys. So lightweight Mandel Nallo and bantamweight Louis Sanadakis, they're both going to be fighting veteran guys and both of whom will be fighting in their home province. Nallo is going to go up against Jose Rodriguez. Sanadakis is going to go up against Eric Wilson. And what I like is it's an intriguing matchup from the sense of 2 young prospects who are getting an opportunity to fight, sort of the quote-unquote grizzled veterans. But these grizzled veterans are not going to just give it away to these prospects. Both guys are looking to, prove a point too, that they're not just journeymen, that they have some kick left in them, and they also have that whole home province advantage, and a lot of fans coming out to see them. So it's not going to be a cakewalk for 2 young guys just because they come out of TriStar. I get the distinct feeling that these 2 young guys are going to be under the gun right away in this fight, and they're going to have to show some mettle and see if they really want to prove themselves against 2 experienced guys. So I think Nallo Rodriguez and Sanadakis Wilson are going to be worth every penny.
Scott, 3 more questions, and I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we're running low on time, but just 3 more questions here. Where will this event be broadcast? Because originally the plan was to air the fights on Go Fight Live, but that deal is now off. So where's this fight going to be shown, whether it's TV or online?
Well, we're really excited to announce that we have always had a building up a relationship and a partnership with Communications, which is a huge independent television outlet in Saskatchewan, and they bring a mobile production truck to this event. It is pretty much exactly like you would see a mobile production unit with Access TV, with NBC, with the major sporting outlets, and they've got one of these trucks now, and it's just massive and beautiful. So they are going to be providing us with the worldwide live streaming of this event on October 24th. So we're excited about that. We're going to announce, we've formally announced that yesterday. We are also going to then next week have all the particulars on how you'll be able to log in to see that fight. Excited by the fact that we've got John Randine and Robin Black from the Fight Network, who will be coming out to do the play-by-play and the analysis of that fight. And then in the future, I think we're certainly going to be doing live events with Access Communications. And I think having their production value is just going to make a very seamless transition into us being able to do live events with the Fight Network. So very, very happy and very excited about partnerships with Access Communications and the Fight Network.
Okay, Scott, let's say that I'm a local fan from Saskatchewan. I'm still on the fence on coming to the event. I don't really know if I want to come and watch the fights live or if I want to hang out with my buddies and do something else on a Saturday night or just stay at home and watch TV. Let's say that I'm still on the fence. I'm a local fan. Why should a fan who's on the fence right now, why should they come see this fight card on October 24th? Make the pitch. Why do people need to be at the event if they're local, if they can make it out to watch the fights live? Make the pitch. Why do they need to see this event?
Well, first and foremost, I would say that it's a historical event as far as sports goes in Saskatchewan. Yes, the UFC did the very first fully sanctioned MMA event in the province of Saskatchewan, but this is the first ever homegrown event, professional MMA event, run and operated by a Saskatchewan-based company, Prestige FC. So, I mean, there's that sense of historical element, and I think people like to get in on the ground floor of something like that. So I think that's pitch number one. And I think pitch number two is the fact that, this is professional MMA that is going to be with the province of Saskatchewan for a long time. The UFC came and went, and I think the best that, UFC fans could hope for is that they would return to Saskatchewan in 18 months, 2 years, and that's a big maybe. Prestige FC's full-out plans are to do 4 shows a year in Saskatchewan. This is your show. If you are in Saskatchewan, Prestige FC is your show. You are the ones that are going to keep it going. You are the ones that are going to see your home province guys on the cards. It doesn't get any more, sort of homegrown, homebred, hometown. It's yours. So come out and support it. And by supporting it, we are going to make it the best event possible, which is why we've brought in guys like Mike Rhodes and Kurt Southern and guys from TriStar and guys from Rufus Sport. We're not going to present you junk. We're going to present you the best available talent that we can get our hands on, and we're going to make it. We're going to be proud to show it, and I think you're going to be proud to see it.
Where can fans go to keep up with what you have going on and what Prestige Fight Club MMA has going on, social media-wise, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff, website? Where can fans go to keep up with everything you and the promotion have going on? And also, if there's any locals listening, where can they go to get tickets to see the event live?
Absolutely. Well, for myself, you can follow me at ScottMaxFight on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook there as well. As far as getting tickets for the show, there's a couple of ways you can go about doing that. You can give us a call at 306-580-0340. You can also go to our Facebook page, which is Prestige Fight Club MMA, and send us a message, and we will get our ticket guys out to you, and we'll make that happen. So, we're doing very well. We're excited. We're at about 70% sold out right now. Great response from the business community to get those dinner tables The general admission seats in the stands at Crescent Point Place are going extremely well too. So we're just we're really thrilled by the response that we've done, and we want to make sure that we fill that building and make sure that the fans get a great event. So, either give us a call or go to our social media on Facebook, Prestige Fight Club MMA, and we'll make sure you get the best tickets we can get you.
Scott, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it, and best of luck with the show coming up on October 24th.
Mike, thank you for the opportunity, and just a real pleasure, and hope we'll do it again soon.